get down to business. Thanks for coming out tonight.
I wrote me a manual, a step-by-step booklet for you to get.
Oh, I make money moves.
You can't see me, my time is now.
What up, guys? Welcome back to the Fitness Times Business Podcast. My name is Joseph Mencel. I am your host. I've got a short, sharp, and to the point solo episode coming your way, guys. But before I do, I just want to start this episode with just such a huge, heartfelt thank you from myself and from everybody who's involved in the production of this podcast. Man, this show has been on absolute fire the last few episodes that we're dropping. Our downloads are just going absolutely nuts. And I'm so grateful for it because we don't do anything apart from produce the content that could cause this sort of growth that we're seeing in this show. It's 100% because of you guys. It's 100% because of all of you who do the one thing I ask in return if you get value out of this podcast is just to share the show with your best mate, to share the show with your brother, your sister, your mother, your whoever, anyone you care about who you think can access value from this show. You're sharing it with it. And those of you who, I see these, literally, so many of these come through each and every day on my Instagram. Those of you who take screenshots and post in your Instagram story and tag me at Joseph Mencel. Guys, I'm just so grateful and so appreciative, and the whole crew here that's involved in the production of this podcast, man, I just want to say thank you on behalf of all of us because you guys are fucking amazing, and we're going to just keep producing the best and most valuable content that we can possibly produce for you guys to really say thank you, to thank you, and obviously to incentivize you to keep sharing the show and help keeping us grow. So I just want to start the show with just a massive thank you to you guys. I've been dealing with a lot of issues this year, guys. A lot of issues related to business in particular that are specifically tied to the pandemic and the fallout of COVID-19, what I'm calling the exposure pandemic. I've been dealing with legal issues. I've been dealing with staffing issues, stock control issues, financial issues, international logistics issues, shipment issues. I mean, the list of shit that I'm dealing with this year that I didn't expect to be dealing with at the start of this year is just absolutely overwhelming. And I think this year in particular, most of us are dealing with a lot of shit that we didn't expect to be dealing with. We're dealing with a lot of shit that we would not wish upon our worst enemy to have to deal with in all different areas of our life. For me specifically, it's regarding business, but I know there's a lot of people who are dealing with issues in their health and fitness, problems with different types of relationships, problems with their career. I mean, 2020 has thus far just been just a absolutely pick the world up and drop it on its fucking head kind of year. And I know I'm not alone in saying that. And so this week I was in court again. It was actually Tuesday this week. I was in court again dealing with one of the business legal issues with one of our retail stores in particular. And I walked out of court and it was the fourth time that I'd been in court in 4 weeks. Which is a lot. Usually, like if I go to court like once a year to have to deal with some shit, I'm like, okay, that's out of the ordinary. 4 times in 4 weeks is a lot. And I walked out of court on Tuesday morning after the hearing. And regardless of what happened in the hearing, it was actually a pretty positive result. I walked out and I just had this intense feeling of overwhelm just come over my entire body, my entire mind. And I almost had a feeling of like, it was like almost like a feeling of defeated, like a sense of defeat in me. And I caught myself spiraling a little bit with my inner talk. It started to get really negative, what I was saying to myself in my own mind. And I caught myself on a particular saying. And that saying was, man, I did not sign up for this shit. I didn't sign up for this shit. This is not what I signed up for. And it was in obviously the realm of business. And it was like, effectively what I was saying to myself is I didn't get into business to have to deal with all the shit that I'm dealing with at the moment. And it just spiraled. It was really negative and very kind of victim of circumstance focused. And it's not the first time that my inner self-talk has gone there. I'm sure, you guys can relate with this one. We all go through periods where what we say to ourselves in our own mind spirals into negativity. And, it might be something along the lines of, I didn't sign up for this shit. It might be, something to do with your own self-worth. It might be something to do with, who knows? It could be a million different things, but our inner self-talk goes very negative. And this is not the first time that my inner self-talk actually went to this exact phrase. It's happened multiple times in my life in the past where I'm like, something happens in my personal life. Fuck, man, I didn't sign up for this shit. Something happens in my fitness. Man, I didn't sign up for this shit. Something happens in business. This is not what I signed up for. But recently, I found myself repeating that phrase much more frequently than I usually would, and much more frequently than I would otherwise be comfortable with, much more frequently than I'd like to admit, to be completely honest with you guys. And this time it really got me thinking. I don't know why it hit me so hard on Tuesday morning after I came out of court, but it did. It really hit me hard, and I was like, man, where the fuck is this coming from? Why is this particular phrase coming up so often in my own mind? Why do I keep telling myself this bullshit of, I didn't sign up for this shit? And it really got me thinking. It got me thinking, where does this come from? Where does this inner talk come from? Where does this phrase come from? When have I heard it before? I started thinking about the different scenarios in my past, in different areas of my life where I'd repeated this saying to myself. What's its purpose, and how can I flip it into something productive? And it hit me so hard this time, guys, that as I left court and I got into my car, I'd usually come straight to the office, straight to Massive Joe's headquarters, and get stuck into my day, put that behind me. But I actually went home. I went home and I was like, nah, I need to give this some serious thought. I need to figure out what the fuck's going on here, because I'm really not comfortable with how often I'm repeating this saying to myself if I didn't sign up for this shit. And as I started thinking about the different times in my life where this has come up, I started thinking about business, obviously, career and fitness. And to share some examples with you guys that I'm sure a bunch of you will resonate with, if you're a business owner, usually it's when you're firefighting, what I like to call firefighting. You're putting out fires in your business. So sometimes it might be legal issues, perhaps it's related to a trademark or a copyright issue, depending on the business you're in. Perhaps it's related to retail store leases. Perhaps it's related to a change in law or a change in regulations that affects your business, affects your industry, that doesn't contribute to the growth of your business at all. It's a fire. It's a fire that you have to put out. You have to go do some firefighting. Perhaps it's staff management. Perhaps it's dealing with the conflict of different personalities in and amongst your staff. Perhaps it's dealing with company culture issues. Anything I like to call business firefighting is anything that doesn't contribute to your business moving forward, but is a fire that if you don't put out will burn your fucking business down, is what I refer to firefighting. So all my business owners, you guys will know exactly what I'm talking about. And often when you're putting these fires out, this is where you start thinking, this is not what I signed up for. This is not what I got into business to deal with. In a career realm, for those of you who don't run a business, but who work for somebody else, you're an employee, perhaps it's something like a company restructure or a change in management that results in you having to do things that aren't directly in your job description. Perhaps you're having to do things that you didn't sign up for. It's not. This is not what I'm employed to do. This is not part of my job description. I didn't sign up for this shit. And that's particularly relevant at the moment as so many different companies go through restructures and changes in management and even change in company direction, where a lot of roles are becoming blurred and the lines between the roles are becoming blurred. And a lot of people are doing jobs that perhaps they weren't doing 12 months ago. Perhaps they didn't think they'd ever do, even at the start of this year. And then in fitness, I think fitness, the most obvious example is an injury. when you get injured. Perhaps you've strained a muscle, or you've torn a bicep, or you've done a knee, or whatever injury you want to choose. We've all been there where we've been injured, and you have to take your focus away from progressing down the linear path of your health and fitness journey to focusing on rehab, and then focusing on prehab to make sure that you don't do the injury again. And you often find yourself, when you're doing your rehab, and then after you've recovered, when you're doing your prehab, man, I didn't sign up for this shit. This was not what I thought I'd be doing on my fitness journey. Why do I have to do this rehab for this knee reconstruction that I had to have? Or why do I have to rehab my torn bicep? Why do I have to take the 3 months that it takes to deal with this tendonitis issue that I have? I didn't sign up for this shit. And I think in all of those examples, and really any example that you think of where you find yourself coming back to this saying of, I didn't sign up for this shit, it's what happens, or it's caused by when your initial expectations are not met. There's a divergence between your expectation and reality. And if you take business as an example, you don't go into business expecting that you're going to have to deal with tricky legal issues, and you're going to have to deal with tricky staff issues, and you're going to have to deal with generally firefighting. You don't go into business with that expectation. You expect to build a profitable business that does great things for your customers, that does great things for the community. You expect it to be sunshine and rainbows most of the time. You expect to do great things with your business. No one goes into business expecting, I'm going to have to spend a bunch of time putting out fucking fires. There's a divergence between the expectation and the reality that causes this overwhelm and this frustration. In the career realm, you don't sign a contract, you don't sign a job description and go and take on go into a new job expecting that you're going to have to do things that aren't part of your contract, that aren't part of your job description. You expect your career to grow and develop in a predictable linear fashion. You expect to develop new skills as you go through, and you expect it to be sunshine and rainbows. You don't expect to have to diverge from what the company employed you to do in the first instance. There's a divergence between your expectation and your reality that causes this frustration and this overwhelm. In fitness, no one expects to get injured during their fitness journey. No one expects to tear a bicep. No one expects to do a knee. No one expects that they're going to get tendonitis from overtraining or training incorrectly. You expect nice linear progression. You expect to lose body fat, build muscle, improve your physique, improve your performance in nice linear fashion. That's the expectation. The reality is you're going to have speed bumps along the way. And that's what leads to the frustration, to the anger, to you getting to a point where your inner self-talk is, I didn't sign up for this shit. And this void created between initial expectation and the reality of the circumstance or the reality of the situation creates overwhelm, it creates dissatisfaction, it creates frustration, and it creates to the inner self-talk, I didn't sign up for this shit. That's what I got when I started thinking about the multiple different times in my life where my mind has gravitated back towards the saying of I didn't sign up for this shit. But it's not a helpful mindset. Not at all. It puts you in a position, as with most negative self-talk, in a victim position. It makes you a victim of circumstance. It makes you a victim of the situation. It's not productive. It's not forward thinking. There's nothing about how you're actually going to deal with the shit, whether or not you signed up for it. It's effectively a protection mechanism. You're in a situation where you feel overwhelmed. The overwhelm creates discomfort. The discomfort creates fear. And you go into protection where it's like, man, I really didn't sign up for this shit. The next question is, why am I having to deal with this shit? So then I started thinking, how do I process and how do I get myself out of this negative self-talk? And really, how do I take this bullshit saying of I didn't sign up for this shit and flip it on its head to create a positive, productive mindset and a positive, productive situation where where I can really kind of use the circumstance, instead of being a victim of the circumstance, use the circumstance to my advantage. And this is what I want to share with you guys is really the practical advice and the 3-step process that I kind of developed as I was processing this on Tuesday morning to get myself out of this negative mindset, out of this negative self-talk. And so step 1 is to define this void. Define the void between circumstance and reality. Actually figure out why you feel overwhelmed, why you feel uncomfortable. And if you can figure out what your initial expectation was and really define it, whether it's in business, whether it's in your career, whether it's in fitness, really define what the initial expectation was and then what the current reality of the circumstance and the situation is. And explore that void. Understand that void and understand why that void is causing you discomfort, why that void is causing you fear. That's the first step. And the reason why that's the first step, guys, is because step 2 is fear. Not the word fear, the acronym fear. And you've got 2 choices at this point. Choice 1 is to define the acronym fear, F-E-A-R, as forget everything and run. That's your first choice. You've defined this void. You know what your expectation is. You know what the reality of the situation is. Your first option is to forget everything and run. So in a business situation, if you don't want to deal with the legal issues, run. Don't deal with them. Don't show up to court. Have a ruling against you. If you don't want to deal with the tricky staff issues, you don't have to. Your company may implode. Your company culture may erode. You may lose your most valuable staff members, but you have the choice. You can forget everything and run. You don't have to deal with that shit. You didn't sign up for this shit. So run. In a career situation, quit. Go get another job. It's fine. Forget everything and run. You weren't employed to do this shit. You didn't sign up for this shit. It's not part of your job description. Forget everything and run. In a fitness realm, if you don't want to rehab, fuck it. Don't do your rehab. Go get your knee reconstruction done. Don't rehab it properly. Go get your surgery done for your torn bicep. Don't rehab it properly. Don't worry about that tendonitis. Should be right. Take care of yourself. You didn't sign up for this shit. So forget everything and run. The problem with making this choice, guys, is if you forget everything and run, you're starting a cycle that will not stop. You're going to continuously forget everything and run. Next time you come up against a business legal issue, you're going to run again. Next time you come up against a tricky staffing issue or a company culture issue, you're going to turn your blind eye to it. You're going to turn your back to it. You're going to run. Next time you've started your new job because you ran from the one that was asking you to do things outside of your job description, this new job, you find yourself doing things outside your job description, you're going to run again. You're going to run again. You're going to run again. And on your fucking resume, you're going to be 6 months at every job you've ever worked. It's not a good position to be in when you're looking for those jobs you really want. In your fitness, you're going to keep running from injuries. You're going to keep running from rehab. And you're going to keep getting injured. You're going to keep getting injured. You're going to keep getting injured until at some point your fitness journey has to come to an end. That's the problem with making this first choice of forgetting everything and run. You cannot run forever. But you can still make the choice. If it's too much, if that void is too fearful, if it's too uncomfortable, fuck it. Forget everything and run. You didn't sign up for this shit. You can make another choice though. FEAR, the other acronym, is to face everything and rise. You can face that legal issue that you're having to deal with in your business. You can rise to the challenge and figure out how to get through it. Figure out how it can make your business stronger. You can rise to the challenge of having to deal with the tricky staff issues. Use it as an ability to become a better manager, to become a better leader, to improve your company culture. You can choose to rise to the circumstance of having to do things outside of your job description. Perhaps you might even develop new skills that'll serve you well as your career continues to develop. Perhaps you might even develop new skills that you didn't even know you enjoyed, that might send your career in a completely different direction that gives you more satisfaction and more fulfillment. You can rise to the situation of having to rehab that injury and perhaps come back even stronger. And then once you are back, you can rise to the situation of doing your prehab to make sure that you don't get injured as frequently or as seriously as you progress along your fitness journey. If you face everything in rise, guys, you're developing new skills. You're confronting your discomfort. You're growing. You're leveling up. And I know by the fact that you guys are tuning into this podcast that that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to grow. You're trying to level up. You're trying to figure out how to get your business to the next level, how to get your career to the next level, how to get your fitness to the next level, how to get your personal life to the next level, how to get your relationships to the next level, how to get to the next level in all areas of your life. And I can tell you guys right now, the only way you can do that is to face everything and rise. Because it's all skill development at this point, guys. It's all developing new skills. Dealing with business issues that you didn't sign up for is developing new skills that you didn't think you'd ever get the opportunity to develop. Dealing with tasks that are outside of your job description, having to do jobs that are outside of your job description is skill development. Developing new skills that you would never have had the opportunity to develop if you didn't do these tasks that are outside your job description. Having to rehab, having to prehab is developing new skills. Perhaps you'll find a different way of training that actually propels your health and fitness journey like a fucking rocket to the next level. It's all skill development, but the thing with skill development, guys, is the only way you develop skills is through action. So you have to face everything and rise. And then step 3, once we've defined this void, we understand the void between our initial expectation and reality, and we've made our decision to either forget everything and run or face everything and rise. Then step 3 is to review your expectations. And this is probably the most important of the 3 steps, guys, thinking back on it, reminiscing on it. Because a lot of the time, our initial expectations are actually unrealistic. If you think about your initial expectations for business, you get into business to make a profit, to build a business that benefits people, benefits the community, to do great things, all sunshine and rainbows. Is that actually a realistic expectation in the first instance? Or perhaps did you need a little bit of a reality check to know that perhaps your expectation needs to be, yeah, I'm going to build an amazing business, a profitable business that is going to have a hugely positive impact on the community. But at the same time, I'm going to have to deal with a bunch of fires along the way because that's just the nature of being in business. That's the nature of being the boss. Perhaps that initial expectation about your career being nice and linear as you progress through your career, and not having to diverge and learn new skills and do different things, but just stay on the straight and narrow. Perhaps that's not a realistic expectation. Perhaps the realistic expectation is you're going to take some turns here and there. You're going to learn new skills here and there. And that's actually part of the bigger picture of career development that perhaps you miss with your initial expectations. Perhaps your initial expectation of your health and fitness journey being this nice linear progression where you just continuously progress to whatever health and fitness goal you decide to set your sights on. Perhaps that's not realistic. Perhaps the realistic expectation is to understand that injuries are part of the health and fitness journey. And by dealing with rehab and prehab, you can actually figure out what works best for your own biomechanics, what works best for your body. And you can actually take little turns in your health and fitness journey that help you get to whatever destination you're trying to get to at any particular point in time faster than you otherwise would. So perhaps your initial expectations weren't actually realistic, and perhaps you need to shift them. once you've had that dose of reality in business, career, fitness. So what did I do on Tuesday? After I had these thoughts, after I took these notes, after I was able to kind of gather my thoughts and really kind of flip that initial thought on its head, that thought, that saying of I didn't sign up for this shit. Once I had defined that void in business, once I had reaffirmed my choice to face everything and rise and develop new skills and level up and confront the discomfort, once I then had reviewed my expectations, it became pretty obvious to me that not only was this not what I had signed up for, this was exactly what I had signed up for. The saying, I didn't sign up for this shit, I was able to flip and say, this is the exact shit that I signed up for. This is exactly what I need. I've been waiting for this. This is what I need to help me level up. This is what I need to push me further into discomfort so that I can develop new skills, so that I can develop more resilience, so that I can develop more grit to get to the next level as a businessman, as a business leader. So I encourage you guys, use this 3-step plan. Define the void. Make your choice of FEAR. Are you going to forget everything and run? Or are you going to face everything and rise? And then review your initial expectations and bring them closer to reality. And next time you find yourself saying, man, I didn't sign up for this shit, flip it and tell yourself, this is exactly what I signed up for. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Fitness Times Business Podcast. Be sure to subscribe. And if you enjoyed listening to this episode, make sure you give us a 5-star rating. Until next time, we'll catch you on the flip side.